Good morning, fellas. Dynasty Till Death. Favorite podcast, often imitated, never duplicated. Number one podcast of your dreams, number one podcast in your heart. We're going in with week 10 recap. Man, lots of injuries, lots of drama. Good teams, good battles as always. Let's not waste time, man. Let's get to it. Whew, man, oh man. Cooper Cup. Donnie and Avery. What a matchup. Obviously, Cooper Cup suffered an injury here. We're hearing he avoided worst case scenario, which is ideal. But Cup's going to be out for a couple weeks at minimum. That's going to be significant. Thankfully, got Devontae last week. Seemed like the move I needed to make before the move I needed to make to kind of help bridge that gap. There is no replacement for Cooper Cup, but we will do our best. Tony Pollard's looking good. I think he's RB 16 on the year so far. Josh Jacobs had a good return, down game by Eckler, but still very productive. So it'll be interesting, man. It'll be very, very interesting. 9-1, feeling good. Could there be a new QB1? I think this is a narrative we got to start talking about now. Justin Fields, man. Listen, I knew Avery would be a potential problem. He's got some firepower there, but there may be a new QB1 in Dynasty. Justin Fields has been ridiculous. I mean, on fire, breaking rushing records, throwing touchdowns, linking up with Komet. I mean, it kind of just feels like they took the reins off this kid and just let him run. Justin Fields has been amazing these past 3 to 4 weeks. Multiple QB1 finishes, multiple top 5 finishes. Avery, I got to commend you, sir. You were somebody who kind of stuck to your guns with him, and you did not move him. There was nothing showing, nothing of promise. You held firm, sir, and you may be in the club. Some of y'all don't know, but if you're in the club, you're in the club. If you're not, you're not. Justin Fields, very respectable, sir. Avery, I see you. Whew, talk about a banger. Monday night barn burner, Javi and Rocco. Just a slower week for Javi. Tiger King was missing some kittens, and that kind of reflected in the lineup. He was missing that consistency from Joe Mixon and T. Higgins. Terrence Marshall, questions, but it's bye weeks, so I'm going to let Javi off the hook. Went up against the big, tough opponent with Rocco. Rocco's wide receivers gave him some love. Scary Terry showed out on the night that he needed to. Very big win for Rocco, putting him, I think, in the 5th seed, breathing down Zach's neck. I'm talking very hot. There was even some liquid on the back of that shit. Rocco's coming, man. We'll see if his wide receiver core can hold up. That's always been his question. As far as his roster build and construct and what he needs to kind of jump into those playoffs. Zach's got some questions at the running back position, wide receivers. We'll get into Zach's last roster a little bit later, but just as far as the teams that are competing for that last spot, it'll be very, very interesting there. So definitely something to keep your eye on there. Great matchup. Went down to the Monday game there. Javi and Rocco. Small injury note. Leonard Fournette did have I think a hip injury in the last game. Now, Rocco looks good. He has Rachaad White. Rachaad White looks good. So if there was a scenario where, he would miss time, Rocco was well prepared in that category. But still something to monitor moving forward. Big teams, man. That was a battle. Javi's got a tough couple weeks, man. He's got Rocco now, and then I'm seeing him next week. That'll be a battle for sure. But 2 respected owners did battle, and couldn't expect anything less than fireworks. We had Drew and Justin coming down to Devontae Smith tonight. Drew said he'd change the league name if Devontae Smith just sit out. He didn't sit out. He didn't show out either. Devontae Smith's an interesting piece, man. He's somebody who I can't really pinpoint value on. I digress. Drew, it says he's the number 2 seed. It's weird because I felt like if you win the divisions, it should be 1 and 2, so Javi should be 2. But hey, I mean, I ain't gonna argue. If Drew's a 2 seed, that's what Sleeper says. Most points for the season. Drew is Drew. That lineup is going to be stout. Diggs, Waddle, Dalvin Cook had a resurgence. I mean, he's got both quarterbacks, so there's no issue there. Drew is pretty consistent. as far as what he's going to bring to the table, as far as when you're facing him and what he represents in the playoffs. So I don't need to dive too deep there. Justin, another solid week. Mostert looking good. Barkley looking good. Wide receiver showed up. I think you just went up against you went up against Drew. I mean, it is what it is there. We can put together good effort, still lose to an owner like that. But Justin, again, nothing but respect, sir. Continuing plugging along. I respect you holding firm. You're committed to your build. You're committed to the players you have on your roster. And as always, you're in a good shape moving forward. So nothing but respect there, Jay. Whoo! Zach and Paulie Walnuts. Jeff Wilson. If you got a first, Paul's looking for a first for Jeff Wilson. I don't know how realistic that is, but just wanted to pass that along. Also, Jonathan Taylor coming back strong. Paul's got some sneaky firepower, man. He looks all right. Christian Kirk came out booming and beaming. Paul had a nice win this week, although I don't think he wanted to win. He had a respectable showing, and it just kind of made me flash to his roster and kind of get some maybe some lost respect throughout the season. But we got to keep that respect on there. Paul's looking like he's got a nice little build there, a couple first-round picks, looking to be a force again next year. Zach Hill came down to kind of normal. Aaron Jones is picking up steam, though. I would say that's a huge positive for you, kind of defining that RB1 spot for you. Palmer didn't give him too much love. We saw some action from Pittman. Amon Ra is Amon Ra. He finally looked healthy and looked involved. He's one of those volume plays to where if he's going to be the main wideout for that passing offense, he's going to get the volume. He's going to see 36 targets a game, maybe to that extent, but nevertheless, you get the point. Very good piece to have. Zach, just a down week. I think Zach's pushing, but he needs to keep winning. That's for damn sure. I think Khalil Herbert had a little bit of an injury scare there. I'm not sure the severity of that situation, but Zach needs to keep winning. That is hands down. It is a tight playoff race. Points between him and Drew are very, very close. And you got Johnny Boy kind of sneaking up. Johnny Be Good kind of hanging around, trying to see if he can kind of poke his head in the playoffs. But nevertheless, great matchup between two great owners. Another great week. Whoo, John and Jeff. There was some cash on this matchup, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe not necessarily the matchup, but for overall record between these two owners. John got a nice win there. Jeff, still some questions from Herbert. It's just tough, man. He doesn't have that elite number one receiver. Palmer's not working out. DeAndre Carter is not a one. Eckler's getting all the defensive coverage you could think of, being the only major weapon on offense. So it's really tough to see if Herbert's having a bad year due to the surrounding talent or lack thereof, or if Herbert's taking a step back and maybe Paul was onto something with the Trevor Lawrence for Herbert and getting that second first. We will definitely see there. John looking like the 6th seed. Let's see, John. James Conner looked good, got back in the end zone twice, I believe. Foreman still looking good. Sanders, John's got a nice little, I think he needs some wideout love, but don't we all? But other than that, John's putting together a pretty respectable season. I think a lot of people had John as one of those lower teams. So for him to be fighting in a position towards the end of the year, to be pushing for a playoff spot, I think we owe John a little bit of respect there. He doesn't make all the moves that we would necessarily agree with, but the man is in a hunt and he's fighting. Got a first-round pick, got a second-round pick, got some capital there. So good win on you, John. Well deserved. Jeff is going to be plugging away. Drake London finally got a little love this week, so it's good to see Drizzy overseas get some love. That being said, it's just been that kind of a season for Jeff to where it's been very, very close. He's got 3 wins there. I think both teams and both owners have exceeded expectations on the season, so I just want to give a little love and respect there. Jeff and Bill, shocker of the week. Bill coming in. CeeDee Lamb said, hold it. All right? This Rocket Lamb ain't going down like that. Jeff just had a down week across the board. It was just real rough. I think Gibson was his only double-digit skill player this week. Antonio Gibson, man, can we talk about with Brian Robinson? There's a huge narrative to move Antonio Gibson, and he wouldn't be this and that. He's like RB16 on the year, RB17 on the year. I think Pollard and him are one off. With Brian Robinson getting drafted, I think Antonio Gibson's just a talent, man. I think he's really making the most of his opportunities. He's seeing less work and still being relevant for fantasy. I think it's just a storyline that was drifting one way to start the season, and I don't think anybody's kind of talking about the fact of where it is now. So I think Jeff did a good job. He acquired him, I want to say 2 to 3 weeks ago, in a trade with John. And he's got both of them back there. As far as both those backfields had a good week. I think they both got into the end zone, both very productive. So Jeff Sims doing his thing, getting rocked by Bill though, man. This shakes up the draft. That's the most interesting thing in the world. Bill was kind of locked in for that draft position. Just traded Devontae Adams to yours truly last week to try to probably help with that situation. But I don't think Bill's a lock now. It definitely shakes things back up. It puts Jeff back in the conversation. Avery, Bill is very, very interesting. That matchup was strictly for the draft heads for next year. Very intriguing there. But nevertheless, I think Bill's got an actually very interesting younger roster. I think he'll need some some running back love here shortly. But I think that's what everybody's thinking about when they're thinking about the 101. If I'm talking mustard, it must be Dijon. If I'm talking football, then you know I'm talking Bijan. That was off the top of the dome. No thanks needed. Dynasty till death, man. Week 10. We had to do the little podcast today from the cribbo. But we locking it up. Interesting matchups for next week. I got Javi and myself. We're going to be doing battle. Very, very significant there. Javi's trying to keep that lead in his division. I'm trying to put the pressure on these boys. Stay the fuck away from Drew and Zach. Stay away from me, please. Y'all make me nervous. Especially without Cup, it should be a battle. We got Jeff and Justin, some of the bottom teams, but yet we'll be shaking up the draft order as far as how their matchup goes. And we got Rocco and Avery. If Rocco can get this win, puts pressure on that 4 seed. If Avery can get this win, shifts the draft picks up. So it's going to be very interesting. As always, man, #1 league, dynasty till death. Man, we fight, we bicker, but it's because we give a fuck. And I will challenge you to find a league that is more passionate and more competitive because you won't do it. So everybody enjoy your week. The one and only Obi-Don Kenobi signing off. You have a good one.